Awesome. Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's session. This is actually our fourth session of the Business Health Navigator Entrepreneurial Program focused on the Marketing Vital. My name is Daniel Nzueto, and I'm happy to welcome you to today's session. If this is your first time attending one of our workshops, let me provide some context on StartOut. StartOut accelerates the growth of the LGBTQ plus community to drive our economic empowerment, building a world where every LGBTQ plus entrepreneur has equal access to lead, succeed, and shape the workforce of the future. I'm excited to introduce our host for today's session, Victor Gonzalez Galeano, who's been with us through our whole process. Victor, the floor is yours.
Hey, Daniel, thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone from Mickey Mouse land, wherever you may be in the world, and however early or late it may be. I'm excited to have you here today because not do we have one guest, but we have two. The power of the minds, and we got John and Adam, and both of them are going to share their intellectual capital on marketing. As you know, we've been focusing on helping you elevate greater performance by creating greater awareness as to the importance of the 5 vitals of your business: financial, well-being, legal, marketing, and strategy, coming up next month. So without further ado, I'm just going to let the powers be to tell us and educate us as to how to take our performance, productivity, and profitability to higher levels with a great marketing strategy. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name's John. I started helping out with StartOut a little while ago. I was at an Out in Tech. If you haven't checked them out, they're a great resource as well, Out in Tech. They had an event, and the head of StartOut presented, and I thought it was a really cool concept as you're experiencing. So just quickly about my background, then I'll dig in. I was in publishing and advertising for years, both in publicity. Before that, I was in sales, or I was an assistant in sales. So I saw what everyone was doing and I helped out. And then as I rose up, I got into publicity. So what I want to share today is just some things I learned the hard way. Coming from a family that wasn't in business, I was, always taught to be, more of the good boy and to really, no confrontation, and then I saw people doing sales in such a hard way that felt really pushy and didn't really sit well with me. And then I learned through working and seeing who was successful in sales and publicity, how much certain factors really played in no matter what industry or what client. Throughout publishing, I've had many different kinds of authors, many personalities. Also the same with advertising. If you work at an advertising agency or many companies, you touch on many different industries and many different personalities. So one kind of pitch or one kind of "this is who I am" here doesn't really work for a lot of people. And I know I respond well when people seem to listen, even if they're not really listening, as long as they pretend really well. So I wanted to just share some things that I've learned along the way that's worked for me. And a lot of them are, not necessarily perfect steps, 1 through 10, do this and you'll be successful, but they're things to keep in mind. And I've pulled from different friends and colleagues who are in different industries as well. So I have a couple personas, or, what this person who's in this industry has said about what they look out for, what turns them off about people who pitch them, what really gets them excited. And I think especially in this day and age we have so many things coming at us, like you all have Instagram ads that will change. If your phone is near you during this call, you'll get something else at night when you scroll through. I think it's really important to remember that as tired as you are of people pitching you and pushing, it really feels nice to feel like they're asking and they're kind of there to negotiate a partnership. And that's what I think has worked for me in the past, whether I'm pitching media to get them to write a story about something, or I'm trying to have people who aren't really necessarily the most compatible at least meet together. So that's just what my intention, and we'll talk about that, about setting intention when you talk to people. And any questions at the end, I'm happy to connect with anyone after this as well. So I am now going to try to attempt sharing my screen. One moment, please. Okay.
While you do that, I'll just say, if everyone could just put in the chat what they do, what their company does, etc. It'll be good just to tailor the conversation a little bit later. So sorry to interrupt, John. Go ahead.
Adam, this is my time, and As a professional in marketing, I don't appreciate that you just took over there. And we'll talk about that later in slide 13. Thank you. All right. So I hope everyone can see my screen. This is actually a client of mine that I've learned a lot from, Mural. It's a collaborative interface space. So I can, connect with anyone about that later. I'm not trying to push it. I just find it's an easier format than PowerPoint. And, you can navigate throughout it and all collaborate together in an interesting way. So I can share more about that later, but that's the format of this. So first, connect and engage. Really reading the room is huge. You want to make sure that you always know what you're walking into. And if you don't know what you're walking into, make sure that you pay attention. I think a lot of us are burnt out from people who talk nonstop and don't listen and don't take in what's around them. So really look around. If you know anyone who works at the company or you know anything about them, just really listen and let them tell you what they want you to hear instead of just agreeing with them all the time and acting like you already know. Okay. The first one I want to talk about is mansplaining. So, if we were in a room together, we could talk about this in a different engaging way, but basically you never want to be the person who finds yourself mansplaining, which really is all about condescending or assuming you know more than others. So I would say if you ever, part of this is knowing who you're talking to. So if you're explaining to someone why raincoats are really important and why they really need to buy them, but they already live in Seattle and they've lived there 10 years longer than you, then that's mansplaining. And it makes people shut down and it makes you not look as smart as you really are. And I think once you start to really look out for it, you'll notice it more. I think, anyone who's, gay or other, you're, kind of used to people assuming they know more about you than they do. And I think that, we all have to be experts in different worlds. And some people are only experts in their world and they think that no one can understand anything outside of the world that they're in because they don't. And that's just how I try to look at it. They just don't realize that, maybe they're not aware of how they come off. So just really try not to mansplain. It drags everyone down. Again, this is what I always try to have when I have people under me who are learning how to pitch media and run meetings, don't assume that people know nothing. A lot of people know bits and pieces of something, but they're not an expert. If you go to the doctor, you know some stuff about your health and about how the body works, but you don't know everything. So if a doctor is really speaking down to you and acting like you don't know what you're talking about or how things work, then you're probably going to your brain's probably going to turn off, and mine totally does. So you want to include people. If you can ask a question along the way, that's great. If you can engage them in some way or let there be a pause to kind of see how they're taking what you're saying, that's amazing. Just if you feel yourself telling, then that's just it's not really as conducive. Again, read the room, read the room, read the room. I think just tattoo that on something or put a Post-it note somewhere. If you come in with a ready printed presentation that's just I'm going to throw this out and everyone's going to take it, that doesn't really always work. Again, it can be more challenging on Zoom. Like right now, I can't see anyone's faces, so I can't really gauge how this is going. But, when eyes start to glaze over, that's when to ask a question or to pivot a bit. Everyone is different, but they're also very similar. So I say that because, you have to kind of switch things up. And if you've done this presentation before and it didn't quite land the right way, that doesn't mean you have to totally change it. Just keep in mind other options when you go into a new space. People want to feel like they're different from everyone else, but largely a lot of people have similar reactions and similar interests, and they just want to feel like you are asking for what they want and that you can give it to them. That's the core of it. Guess what? Not everyone wants to have the elevator speech shoved down their throat when they're in the elevator. I think as we all get older, we kind of see people trying to perfect that. And we realize with horror what we tried to do when we were younger. I would say just hello, if you work in a company or you have a neighbor or someone that you might interact with on that casual level again, you don't need to whip out your elevator speech and force it. That's something that you see in movies, people being the go-getter, the hustler. I don't think that often works. I think people really just want to be on their phone and have a minute of silence in an elevator, or if they're walking down a hallway. But if it feels organic, great. Otherwise, just give it a minute. There's going to be another elevator. There's going to be another moment. And if there isn't, then it wasn't meant to be anyway. They're going to remember that they're going to remember that you were annoying and that you took their time away. most likely if you shove it down their throats. So just really, again, read the room, read the elevator, read whatever space you're in. And that's just, I can't stress that enough. In general, if you ever are trying to, this is just good for everything. And I know some of you already, working this in your companies and proposing, getting funding. You really want to say, first off, why you're there. And you're going to say how you're going to solve their problem. If you don't know what their problem is, then you want to find ways to have them share what their needs are. And if they don't even know what their needs are, then you have to find ways to get them to express what they're doing so you can suss that out. And from the other things that you're doing in this series, through strategy, through finance, like you can piece that together sometimes for them, but you need information. You need to make them comfortable giving you information. If they don't even know they have a problem, or you haven't, or like they're not open to your new insight, then don't drag it out. So like if you're trying to convince someone that they need your product, but they have no idea that they even need it, I mean, you can't force someone to get like a helmet if they don't even have rollerblades, or if they don't even want to deal with that piece of their business. If they don't want faster speeds for their internet, or they don't want more security, then you either have to find a way to make them realize that they need it, or you just move on, because the time you spend on a lead that's not working is just wasted time, and you're not going to learn anything else. This is something that took me way too long to learn, and this goes for if you're looking for an apartment, if you're dating, if you're doing anything that requires someone else to want something you have, or engage with you. If you just get to the no, it's so much more powerful than a yes. And I'm breaking one of my own rules by just reading off a slide, but it can be really freeing, even if it damages your ego or it doesn't feel good in the moment. If you've done what you can to get your point across and to feel like you're listening to them, and finally you just get a no, I think we would all rather just have a no after a first date instead of trying to text them or call them or whatever. It's the same thing with business. I have a few prospective clients that are lovely, that might be former colleagues or friends of friends. And, they might realize they don't have the money at the end of the day for something, or, Q3 is scary for them and they don't really want to say no. But I, as the person who's taking my time from other prospective clients, and I'm sure many of you can appreciate this, I'm fine. Just tell me now, or tell me not right now, or hey, tell me, let's talk in 3 weeks. I really don't like when people badger me for a yes when I've already said no. So I think you have to listen when they say no. And that's a big one. Again, I said this before, but listen from the no, get the no, learn from it, understand it, and move on. Everything is there to teach you something. It sounds cheesy, it sounds Oprah, but when the annoying feelings fade, you're going to learn something from it. And you'll be glad you didn't get that client, because you have a new client that's even better, that you were able to get to faster because you learned something from the last one. It's the same as job interviews. Even if you don't think you can get it, or if it's not the best fit for you, I say just go for it, because then you can learn about how you talk about yourself, and it's good practice. Again, you'll mess up, you'll be frustrated, you'll experience disappointment, and that is a good thing. Again, it's all about your energy. It's a waste of your energy and time to tell everyone you know about how much that client didn't work out, to feel bad about it. Just move on, write some notes down, and go to the next thing. It's nice to have a few different things going on at once, because if one's disappointing, then you're not as sad about something not working out. Okay, so this is a big one for me. I think people feel like they have to say that they love something and they're obsessed with something. That to me feels like there's nothing behind it, even if I'm guilty of saying the same thing. But if you're trying to convince someone that what you do, or how you feel about them, is so strong and so real, curious means you want to learn more. And interested means you're interested. Like there's something about them that's special and you want to find out more. It's not just, I've decided who you are and I want more of it and you need to take my product. If you're even a simple thing like, hey, I'm going to look up five solutions for that thing we talked about and email you, and then actually emailing them that night, that's more powerful than a huge pitch that then they don't hear from you for 2 weeks. This formatted funny. Anything that can show that you actually follow through. There's this thing I saw in the New York Times recently that I should have included in this. It's about, there's a mixture of warmth and competence that if you're only warm and you're, lovely and charming and everyone likes you and they want to spend time with you and they're eager to be around you, that's great. But then you have to actually follow through and, hit the deadline, provide the service, get there on time, make someone feel good before they wonder what's happening. The other side of it is some people are super competent, but they don't have any personality. They're very dry, and that's off-putting to people. So I think we all can picture different people. Like, you can't just be the head down, cold super nerd and have no personality, but you can't be the, tap dancing used car salesman, and that turns people off too. So you have to kind of like figure out for your personality what's in the middle, and not everyone's a born salesperson. So maybe you're the brains behind the operation and you have someone else on your team be the person who reaches out. Again, these are all just things that I've learned, so take it or leave it. Shockingly, myself included, people love to talk about themselves. I think if you can get them talking about themselves, if someone has kids, they love to talk about kids. I have 2 little kids, and I can't believe how long I can go talking about it. If it's about the person you're talking to. So if you have 3 people in the room, and you get one person talking and the other people are bored to death, you have to switch it to them too. But really, just any interview, especially I've noticed as I get older, the more I have people talk about themselves, or I just ask questions because I'm interested and curious, not just saying how much I love the job and I'm obsessed with this career. I'm curious about them. They're really interested in talking, and then they feel good after, because people don't even remember what you say half the time. They just they remember how you make them feel, and that's a Maya Angelou quote. So if you're like, do they want to email with you during the day? Are you going to be annoying? Like, that's all part of it that, we don't say out loud. But if they're going to spend a lot of money working with you, or spend some money, they don't want to feel like this person's just going to make my life more annoying, or they're going to make it all about them. Again, ask them questions and just give them a second to answer. A lot of people just, they immediately try to answer for them, or they're super hyper. I know that I speak really quickly. I kind of don't care. It's just how I am. But it is a good thing to slow it down when you're asking someone a question and not talk over them, or answer for them. And that's something I definitely work on. My husband would laugh and say the same thing, but he could speak a little faster, I think, sometimes. Also, people like to talk about how they got there. So one trick, if you're ever with someone a little bit on a casual side that really might seem a little stiff, if you just ask them what their first job was, or how they got into that industry, or how they decided to do this aspect of it, people love talking about that, and they love thinking about, their choices, and especially if they like their career, what led them into it. Also, people love talking about what's changed. So if you get someone over a certain age, they love to tell you what has changed and what's different. And these can be entry points for you for what your product is. And you don't have to interrupt them, but you can just keep that in mind and then reference it later. So when you ask them a question, it's not just to let them talk, it's to really pay attention. This is something my dad always says, and I didn't understand it until I was older. Stick with winners. So when you're starting your own company, and again, I don't know what level of entrepreneurship everyone's in or StartOut, but when you're starting something new, some people are excited for you, and some people are very ready to tell you all the reasons why it won't work, or they seem to be dragging you down, or you don't have energy around them. Starting your own thing takes a lot of energy. Working is hard no matter what you do. So I would say, if there's a friend who makes you feel excited to talk about your day, or if there's someone who's like rooting you on, just pay attention to that, how you feel around them, and stick with them. And you want to, we all go through hard times, and not everyone is super successful all the time, but you can have a friend who's unemployed and, doing a lot of things and meeting a lot of people and very active. That person is more positive probably for you than someone who's been stuck in a job with a great title that hates their life, that is always telling you that making a change is risky, because it's threatening to them. Again, these all seem cheesy, but they work for me. You lose every opportunity you don't go for. So if you're worried about something, even if it's a coffee with someone who might not be a good client, the best fit, or, an event that you're not sure if that's really where you're going to meet anyone, I would say just go for it, because you never know how that experience is going to, be a reference point later when you're learning about these clients. Like, you might have gone to that thing that person was involved with, or a friend who did something else. One thing that I really feel strongly about, and I know there are sales terms for this that I don't know because I'm not a hardcore salesperson, but hard sell usually is more of a short-term thing. So if you're really looking to develop a partnership, which most relationships are at this point. They're partnerships. It's not just, hey, I'm going to give your service and run away. I don't respond well to a hard sell. I don't like when someone tells me I have to take it and I have 5 minutes to do it or I lose the deal. That makes me turn off. So I think like learning about what the person needs and hearing them say it out loud and then showing them some things that might be different versions that might be helpful to them is better than saying that, like telling them they're broken and that you have the only thing that will fix them. Maybe that works for some personalities, but I don't know many that it does work for. Okay, again, take the risk, reach out and follow up. So email that person, oh, the job title's too high for me. Oh, that client, that person probably already has a vendor like me. They don't need me. Just take the risk, follow up afterwards, but reach out and then follow up once. Like, don't push it. Don't email people on the weekend. Don't email them on a Wednesday, a Monday or a Friday. Do it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. When you would already be at work or before you leave from work, like in the middle of the workday. No one wants to look at this late at night or in the morning, and it's going to get lost in the rest of their feed. If it's not happening, then don't keep pushing. You can follow up and that's it. And then you'll leave a good taste in their mouth. That's really what it's more about. It's about what's your impression. Okay, so I have a few people that I talked to. Again, I know we're just speaking through all of this. We can talk later. I've been in a few different industries, so I have a few people that I talk to, just asking them, what really works for you when you're pitching or when you're being pitched. And all of these people, their jobs are basically to pitch things or to get someone to buy their services. So these people are very sensitive to when it comes back at them, what they have no patience for. And I think knowing what turnoffs are, and I want to keep this all positive, but I think like there are some things that, and I'm breaking some of the rules now, but that you really can think of and keep in mind when you're pitching so that you don't lose people's interest for something that's really silly. You want your intelligence and the strength of your product to shine through. And there's so many career books out there and there's so many guidelines and rules, and that's great. But at the end of the day, everyone is different and everyone you pitch is going to be different. And that's why learning how to pay attention and learning how to read the room and learning how to engage people and finding out what they really need and what they want, and if those two are the same things, and how you can provide a solution and having it be a trusting relationship, that to me is the core of it. So timing. So this is my old boss in publishing. He was very successful. John Grisham, Pat Conroy, Margaret Atwood, Chuck Palahniuk, if you know Fight Club, like those are some titles I worked on with him when I was there. He got amazing PR. All the media loved him. He didn't do the hard sell. He was always available for them. And so he always says, timing is key. The little quote up here. Know your target's timeline rhythm well enough to be in a solution in advance, not a last minute hindrance. If you're trying to pitch in publishing or advertising in publishing, if you're trying to pitch a TV show, then you have to know when the producers are looking for more content for the next season. Like, you should know that, so that when you come to them, it's a solution that they're looking for. It's almost like if you're at a restaurant, like you don't want the waiter like yelling at you for your order when you walk into the restaurant. You want to get them when they're sitting down, and you want to have an idea of what they're looking for and see if they need anything. So just keeping little conversations going in a way that doesn't ask a lot of people, then makes you ready to really serve up what you have at the right time, and you're already in their ear. So these are some things you can look at while I'm talking, but I have some pull quotes from each of these people here. But again, pay attention. There might be something, even if you're not in publishing, something might come up in the media with politics. We've had a big week for that. The Microsoft, that crazy outage that happened last week. There might be something in there that can tie into what you've talked about with these people beforehand. And it's great just to get a quick note saying, hey, were you okay with the outage? Or, if you know that they are open to talking about politics, you can make a coconuts joke about Kamala, and then that's just a way in. Or if there's a bigger, news cycle thing, you can pull into that. Again, for anything that you pitch in general, all you really want to boil it down to, if you're just doing an email, hello, this is me, you need a great opener that's simple, that's easy to read, a quick few lines about what you're talking about. In this case, we're talking about books, and a closer, why they should do it. So, hey, this is the deal. This is who I am. This is what I'm offering. And this all seems obvious, but it's nice to have it written out like this. And then a quick close, like, hey, this would be a great solution for whatever your needs are. And then I sign off, and that's it. And then it's easy, you're in and out. Also, especially with AI that's coming up, I think like, and sometimes if, English isn't your first language or you're new to writing, people tend to get very stiff and very super professional, which just can feel fake to people sometimes. So if you're not confident, I think writing in your own voice and just saying exactly what you want to say is the best first draft. And then you can have a friend look at it or a colleague and say, can you tighten this for me? And that's how you can learn. But I think being afraid of not saying the right thing and having it be super professional and dry, it makes people glaze over and they don't pay attention. So it's more about talking to a person, not shoving a super rigid pitch at them. And again, I won't go through every single part of all of these, but I have an advertising chief executive in pharma. She was the one running all of the relationships between like big pharmaceutical companies during COVID, and talking to clients about how we can help them as they navigate trying to get a cure, a vaccine for COVID in real time, and dealing with the politics of it and the public persona. So she's really good at just cutting through the BS, and she was very successful. So one thing she always says is, don't sell too hard, but connect with each person by reading the response to what you're saying. So you're seeing some common themes here, like don't sell too hard, just like respond to them and like pay attention to them. You know what I mean? Like that, they're just all people. Like you would feel the same way if you're on the other end of the, in the chair and they're the ones presenting. If you were in their shoes, you wouldn't want someone just hard selling you and not paying attention to you. The beauty of being more responsive and aware is that you don't have to go by a perfect script, and they don't know it anyway. So if everyone's getting a little bored, or if they're interested in one part more than the other, expand on that part and maybe just follow up later with the key points that you might not have hit because you didn't think it would fit that day. Again, tell them what you want to tell them, then tell them, and then summarize what you told them. So this is what I'm going to say. Here I am saying it. Let's recap what I did. And then this is what next steps are. Again, practice. Everyone has different levels of that. I have a friend who is, and former colleague, who is an account leader. So they're in charge of the big accounts for in advertising, and she ran Johnson & Johnson. You can I won't read all of these, but basically her thing was keep it tight, don't ramble on, make it a quick deck. So you can say things in 10 to 15 slides. You can make a concise pitch. And if you see here, she wrote, a concise pitch is everything. I know because I work for people who won't shut the fuck up. So like, there's nothing worse than just being stuck in a room when someone won't stop talking. And hopefully that's not our experience today with me. But you want them to be able to pay attention enough to ask questions and not just shut down. And, we all might, especially if you're working for yourself, you have the opportunity to make those decisions. If you're working for other people, they might feel like they need a padded deck or something. And then you're at the whim of that executive telling you what to do. But if you're starting your own companies, then you can really make it simple. And then when it is simple, you can add on easier because it's not too full. Again, just a couple more. I'm going to read off the quote to my friend who's an exec sales tech and security software lead. So and she leads a huge team of salespeople, and it's for software technology. So she says, to me, a good pitch is, I heard you and I can help you, even if we're talking about a landscaper. I asked her this the week that they were getting landscaping done in their house, and that's why they use this example. There's a big difference between the guy who shows up and won't stop talking, and the guy who says, okay, here's how we're going to plant trees to give you the privacy and shade you want. So that guy had to figure out with them that they want privacy and shade. They might not have known that when they called the landscaper, but he probably asked her, okay, so what are you thinking? What bugs you about the yard? What would you like? Whose yard do you like that you see? Like, how do you use your space? Those are questions that people respond to more. And people just want to feel like you understand. Again, you're going to fall, you're going to stumble. We all do it. It's how you pick yourself up. If you're starting your own company, you've experienced that. I would say like, it's make a little joke, just move on. You don't have to make a big deal of it. Just move on and acknowledge that it happened and that it's not going to derail you. Again, purpose, always say what the point of what your big conversation is. And these over here, I would say the call out from this experiential ad exec and partnerships lead that I think everyone should leave with is, find out that budget first. I have made this mistake since I've been consulting for sure, and I've learned the hard way, but find out what the budget is, because everyone can love you and everyone can want to talk and have a million follow-ups and have you do decks and, figure out all of their problems for them. But if you don't know what their budget is, and if you're not clear about how much your value is and how much you cost, people respond well to people who say what their rates are. And if the rates are really low, sometimes they take them on and can build, but I found that you can always build in hours, but you can't up a rate. So if you're providing a service, that's something to think about, going in with lower hours, but your rate, then you can always add hours. That's a different conversation than, oh, I'm charging you more now, because people get very used to the product, the services that you're providing. Again, just these two really quickly. The traditional, I'm just quietly taking notes and controlling all the conversation. You just really want open feedback, like make them feel comfortable telling you what resonated or what didn't, and then don't push back on them if you don't agree with them, because they can say whatever they want, and you want them to feel like they're able to be right. I have a quick book rec here, and I can send this around. I have a friend who leads sales coaching, so she literally coaches people on her team on how to be a better salesperson. This is the author that they use in their industry a lot. To Sell is Human. He's written other things. I have not read it, but I looked it up before I recommended it, and it seems like just a really humanistic approach and behavioral. So it's not just saying, here are the 5 things to do. It's more like what to keep in mind when you navigate. And you're not really making people do other things. You're just helping them along the way to figuring out what they need. And then you can figure out how you can show that you're a solution. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I just wanted to mention elevator pitch. It's something that I've had to work on in my life, and it can change for each person. But elevator pitch is really just like summing everything up for yourself. And I apologize if you already have these and you already know about all this, but it's a brief persuasive speech that you can use that just basically shows who you are. It makes them remember you, and then you can change them for each thing you do. So if you have different kinds of clients, you'd have a different one for each. And I just put the steps here in a visual way. I'm more visual, so I thought it'd be helpful. So I don't have an example of an elevator pitch, but we could, do it practice in the comments. When we do the Q&A later, we could do some examples. I'd love to hear what you guys have. But you figure out what your goal is. I want to get a new client. I want this person to remember me. You explain what you do. Unique sales proposition. That's what USP is. Like, I can deliver more PR in 3 hours than most people can. Let's just say that. Like, what do you have for a PR person right now? Like, do you enjoy having a bigger team behind you, or do you like one person you can talk to? And they go, well, I'm a great PR person. And I really enjoy being the resource for an industry and for a company in particular, that kind of a thing. And then you just practice. So that's my presentation. I just want to show you the concept of this. You can, come in and out and do as many different decks as you want within this, and then do sticky notes and stuff. That's just Mural, which I'm learning. It's this new platform. So that's the zoom out of what we were just doing. And I think now ready for Adam, and then we do some Q&A after.
Let's bring it on, Adam. It's $2
All
now.
right.
You can find John if you took extra time that belonged to you, okay?
Oh, sorry.
No.
I'm the banker now, so I'm ready to collect.
Totally fine. I think we'll be super relaxed, and people will have time for questions at the end either way. Well, John, why don't you stop sharing and I will start. And then, so as I share, the thing that I want to do is pick up from where John left off, right? So John talked us through one-to-one relationships, I think, in like a really great way, right? So as we're thinking about pitching effectively to the press, or developing new partnerships with people, or if you are running a consulting business and are getting new clients, a lot of that one-to-one relationship is super critical. The thing about marketing is that you have to be able to support both one-to-one relationships and one-to-many relationships too, right? So I'm going to talk through the like one-to-many side of things, and how do you get this word out to more and more people over time? And I'm going to specifically talk through how to use AI to create the first draft of everything that you do, right? So using AI as a force multiplier to be able to work faster, and then using your own brain, right? You didn't stop having a brain at any point during this, right? Everything that John just talked us through, you can't be ugly in your pitching or overly just overly hard selling in the messaging, and you know, AI doesn't like always get it right the first time, right? You have some like personal accountability in what you're putting out on behalf of your brand, right? But what I hope to help you see is just how to get an accelerant and how you can move faster, etc. So I'm gonna start off by spending entirely too long talking through my background, and then I'm gonna get into just live demo of AI and show you how I actually do things. And so I just want to start off with my background. Like, I went to art school and I ended up running a photo lab, and I really only call this out for queer culture, in that it was a time pre everyone having a digital camera in their pockets at any moment, and so people couldn't get imagery or art at that time printed, and so the photo lab was one of 2 resources in the country that would take whatever type of material you wanted to have. And the other just like super cool experience from that was Curtis Scott King's assistant lived down the street or whatever, and so she brought in all of Martin Luther King's pictures, like his family photos, to print, and that was such a blessed experience. The photo lab closed all of a sudden because of digital photography, and I ended up like going to work in bars and restaurants and stuff after that. And one day a cocktail napkin landed me a job the next day in PR, and I spent a year and a half in PR helping restaurants get the word out about people coming in and all the delicious stuff that they had to share. From there, I fell backwards into marketing. I don't even know what happened. I just like started doing it one day and learned all of the things about marketing. So, you know, physically first, and then how to do that online, digitally, and then incorporating more and more technology over time. And that's when I transitioned into running executive teams. So I became an executive for the first time for a marketing technology company, and then continued through a number of different things, whether in e-commerce, advertising. Had an incredible thing in fashion technology, where we're helping the world's largest companies, you know, the biggest shoemakers in the world, the top fashion brands, figure out what things you want to buy, so that they make sure that they're making the right things and not making things that nobody cares about, right? And from there, I decided to create my own lifestyle brand. So for all the people that physically sell a thing, I did that for a while, and then went back into technology. I was a CMO at first of another marketing technology company, and then shifted into product and was running the engineering team and the product organization. And that just sort of gets us up to kind of where I am today. And the first thing is that a year ago, I was like, hey, I think AI is getting pretty good. I'm not a developer. I don't know anything about building software companies. That's not true. I know a lot about building software companies at this point, but I don't know anything about actually developing software. What could I do with AI? And you're just seeing, you know, kind of what 6 or 9 months of me generating code with artificial intelligence, what I was able to do with those things. And Tross, the company that I built, is specifically around product analytics and understanding the way that customers utilize your products and services. And so from that experience of working 40 hours a week with AI to do cool things, I realized, hey, I actually know a lot about this stuff too. And so I started consulting business, where I teach businesses how to get work done faster. There's so much work to be done. People are so busy and so overwhelmed all the time with all the things that they need to do. Let's just get the stuff that is simple and easy out of the way, so that the humans can focus on all the stuff that humans do the best, and being creative and doing awesome stuff, right? I'm also a board member at the Allen Institute. And so I'm responsible for the animal welfare as they do brain science and cellular studies, immunology, neural dynamics, et cetera. And so I make sure that any of the live subjects that get utilized in their stuff. And hey, John, I think we can hear you typing. If
Oh,
you
sorry.
or yeah, mute real quick. So anyways, just that's cool additional thing that I do. And then finally, I do environmental education. So I teach kids and adults how to grow their own food, how to forage in the woods for things that are free, and how to be sustainable in life. So let's talk about that marketing side of things, right? So much that we can do in the world. We're trying to get more and more clients all the time so we can scale our businesses, make more money. And at the end of the day, the faster that we can get stuff done means the more time that we can do all the things that are super rewarding in our lives that have nothing to do with work. Like I am just constantly fighting to close my computer, put down my phone, not look at any sort of screens so I can go do all the things in life that I really love. So let's get stuff done fast and efficiently, and then we can go do all the stuff that we want to do in life. Because as queer entrepreneurs, we have no time to waste. We are already a bit disadvantaged in life, or potentially behind, depending on which industry we are working in. And there's no time to waste in our own entrepreneurial journeys. And so, you know, I just want to reiterate again that like you have to have first done everything that John taught you through. So John talked you through how to create a great pitch and how to craft a message that can resonate with people. And so you have to have already sort of like honed in on that, and your particular strategy for how you're going to connect with your customers. You have to have already like figured those things out before you start banging around in AI. Otherwise, you're just going to get an accumulation of stuff that doesn't make any sense. So make sure that you already have a clear and concise strategy to connect with customers first. But once you're ready, there's a lot of stuff to be done, right? And this is about how do you guys sell software to a business, and not what a lot of the people on this call are actually doing. But when we jump into doing an actual demo in a second, we can talk through which of these potentially are interesting things to do. But if you don't have a clear value prop outline, I haven't done any customer analysis, don't know who your ideal customer is, these are all things that you can get a leg up with having AI write the first draft, and then going in and honing and refining it so that you can then use those things to do things like create a social media strategy, or create landing pages or your homepage on your website, or send prospecting emails when you're sending it out to a larger audience of people to get a little bit more scale. What's your demo script like for whatever it is that you're selling, or sales pitch for when you do get somebody? You know, for the people that are in mental and physical health, this doesn't really apply for you guys, but there will be ways to scale better based on having AI do a first draft for you. Because at the end of the day, I feel like there's nothing worse than having a blank sheet of paper and just staring at nothing and being like, well, what am I supposed to say right now? Instead, just have the AI do a first draft, and then you can be like, this is nonsense. I would never say this about the way that my industry is. Instead, I would say that. And you already know in your heart what you're going to say, and you can easily edit it. And it just makes things go a lot faster than if you're just staring at a blank sheet of paper being like, okay, I have to write 3 prospecting emails. What would I say? And so I don't know how many 80s kids are out there. This might be an idea that doesn't quite land with people, but I grew up watching Beauty and the Beast, and there was something about Miss Potts and the way that she just like ran and managed the kitchen that I really see as like a corollary to the way that AI works. And so the first thing that I would really like encourage you as we go through this is just be authentic. Don't focus on writing a prompt. Focus on speaking in your natural human language. And what will happen is every one of the words that you use is like describing a character in this Beauty and the Beast clip, and then Mrs. Potts is going to organize that into an amazing dinner party for everybody. But she needs to know who the cast of characters are, and so the way that you describe things in your prompting that we're going to get into in just a second are like describing all of the characters, and then from there, Mrs. Potts does her thing and helps create the things that you want to see happen. So I'll show you what that means in just a second. And just roll with it. Like, people get so stressed out about AI, like, oh, I have to do the perfect thing in order to make it generate the exact thing that I needed to do. And it's just like, just tell it if you don't like it. Don't stress out about it. Just get started and then give it feedback and say like, hey, I didn't like what you did, whatever the case may be. So let's jump into it and let's do like a real life demo together. And this is our blank screen. So I actually can't see that because my my little Zoom thing is in the way. So let me just move it. Okay, so I really wanted to base this on somebody's actual business. There are a bunch of people in mental health and in physical health. And that might not be the best thing for us to start off with. And so I'm going to make up a fake brand. So I'm going to say, we are running an exclusive sunglasses company at the premier beaches around the world. We sell only the best products. It's completely customized to our customers' personal styles. It's exclusive and everyone wants to be there and to participate, but we don't let anyone but the best in, so there are lines around the block. See, the thing that I'm doing right now is just setting the stage for the AI. It doesn't matter what we are talking about. We could be going in and talking about our business practices, whether you're in management consulting or people in media services, and talk about kind of what it is that we're doing. And I will like write quite a long thing to get started with, but we'll just get started here and say, what questions do you have about the business? And then the AI will just like start to ask questions like, who do we want? How does that actually work? How are we selling to people? What's our branding? And I don't actually want to like spend the time right now because we're doing this live to go through this. I'm just gonna say it's all about luxury and exclusivity. We use thought leaders and influencers to drive business. What are some potential new channels we should think about investing in? And then the AI is going to like start off by giving us suggestions about what kinds of things it thinks we should do. And so quite quickly, we went from nothingness to, hey, we should maybe think about what we could do in high-end advertising, hosting luxury events and sponsorships, private shopping experiences, exclusive partnerships, limited edition releases, personal VIP services. Okay, that's awesome. Please write an email to an influencer to get them to come to our exclusive event. And again, like, it typically writes things pretty long. And it might be like not the most interesting, like that's way too long of an email. So I'll just say that's way too long of an email. Get real. let's be concise. This is an important person. And it'll try again, right? And that is a much shorter email. And then, you use your best into your ideas from here, and you say like, no, we're gonna like do this other thing, or we're gonna have future come like do a thing, and like whatever the case may be for what makes sense to market or get the attention of your particular brand. So I'm gonna like pause there on that idea just so that we do have a lot of time for questions after that. And we'll move on to a totally different thing, which is like, how do you know about what your customers are doing, right? And not your customers, your competitors. So you can spend a lot of time and you can go and research your competitors online. And that could be a great activity for you to do to just understand what other people in the market are doing. In general, my personal belief is that you shouldn't spend time looking at your competitors too deeply, because then all you're ever doing is copying and emulating. You should instead focus on yourself. What is your, as John said earlier, your unique selling proposition? What makes you unique? And then focus on that rather than on your competitors. But at the end of the day, we need to know what our competitors are up to. And while this particular tool here is called Completely, it was like $20 for 10 of these analysis. So I just ran one on, it was Carlos. Carlos just left Techie Bio, but I figured I would just throw this one in. It ran during John's session. It probably took like 7 minutes to go find out all of this information. But what it did is created an overview of each one of Tycho's competitors and some information about each one of them. So it goes pretty deep. It like goes through what's their tagline, a description of their services, and then it goes into their marketing section. It tells you what the unique value prop is for each one of those, which channels they are involved in, social media profiles, and then, hey, what are the actual like use cases for their products? What are their features, et cetera? Maybe a little light in that section. How do they price things? What audiences are they speaking to? What's the sentiment of things? Like I said, there's a lot of information that comes through this, and this helps just orient myself, especially if I'm new to an industry and don't quite understand what's going on yet. Something like this can really help me understand what the other players are and what makes things different. What are opportunities, threats, weaknesses, and then finally a little bit of company information down at the bottom. And so something like this, you would have taken you to do yourself, that would have taken you so long, just so long that no one would actually do it, right? So a lot of people do competitive analysis and they only look at pricing, and they just like only look at who are the other people, what prices are they charging for things. So yeah, anyway, so that's just a note on competitive intelligence, for thinking about like what are the things that we need to do in order to run a successful business. We need to be able to message and pitch our product. We need to understand what other people are offering in the market so we can determine our own pricing, see what opportunities we have to grow our businesses, get them bigger, etc. So let's talk about visual design a little bit. So let's go back here to ChatGPT, and we'll start here. Can you use DALL-E, just to be specific for it, to make a graphic for the? I don't know why I don't like not typing well to AI, but I try and actually use use correct English, just not to confuse it. And so right now it's creating something, right? The ChatGPT graphics tend to be a bit more like this. They're a little cheesy looking, they're a little hokey. You still need a graphic designer to make this better. And so maybe I say that doesn't say exclusive sunglasses to me. Let me try again. And so I don't actually use ChatGPT's image creation for much anymore, but hey, like it's possible to get something, at least inspiration, that you could then give to a designer who would then tell you or give you something that it actually uses your products or looks a lot nicer, et cetera. But this would at least like give you the ability to have a conversation with them. I like to, I work in B2B software. And so you often have to convey ideas that are complex to people, and you try and do so in a simple and easy to understand way, right? So I would rather have a graphic tell a story for me than put up a slide, right, with a lot of text on it. And so the top product in the market right now for image creation is called Midjourney. And Midjourney is wild because it uses Discord and everything's open. And so you can see everything that everybody else is creating, and you can talk to the top. Okay. And they can see everything that you're creating. So let's create another image for our sunglasses campaign. So the way you use Midjourney is you type imagine, and then from there you just type what it is that you want. You are creating a flyer for an exclusive event at our sunglasses retailer. There will be celebrities there and influencers, so make it look really posh and exclusive, but we're selling beautiful sunglasses on real human beings. So I don't know why it did that. You're not allowed to use the rootbacks flag. Let's see. Oop. It barked on. We'll see if that made it happier. Okay. You have subscriptions to Midjourney. I pay $10 a month for this service, and I get a certain number of hours of creating images during that particular time period. And so it was mad at me for being on the free version when my subscription. So right now it's 32% of the way through, and first it's going to create these 4 images. And then from there, we're going to look at the images and decide if we like any of them. So I scroll through other people's. It's like, I don't know, let's upscale this one, the top right one. None of them really like do, it's still, I'm systematically on relaxed right now, and it is upset about that. But anyways, the moral of the story is you would click upscale, and then you have the ability, like right here, to say, okay, do I want to change this picture at all? Do I like the way it looks? I can vary it and make it very different. I can zoom in or out, or shift around, etc. But then I can get some beautiful, very photorealistic branding images if that were to fit my brand. So it kind of depends on whatever it is that your particular brand is. I had one last little demo to do. I will say that Midjourney does have a little bit more prompting, and so there are things that you can do that's that fast thing that was just getting mad at me about. But there are things that you can do to change the way that things look. You can make it look very photorealistic. You can make it look like a little kid's drawing. You can make it look like high tech. sketch, etc. Like the journey is very fluid in being able to create kind of whatever it is that you can dream or desire for your particular brand. But it's up to you to describe it in real human words so that it understands what to create. On that note, I want to say that you should talk in positive terms to AI in the same way that you should talk to people in positively affirming terms rather than in negative terms. So telling people, I don't like this, it doesn't work, blah, 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 is a lot harder for them to understand what to do next, as opposed to if you tell them concretely what would be better, both people and AI are a lot more likely to do what it is that you want them to do. So I'm gonna finish up with just one more example. I think there are only a couple of people in software who are on the call, but I just wanted to show how easy it could be. So again, I started off with just a rambling, completely human to human spoken set of things of what it was that I wanted for a software product. And so then it went through and I asked it hey, please clarify any questions before you start. And it went through and asked me some detailed technical questions next that don't matter for us. But I went and sorry, I have to move that again. It's right over my little chat window. So I went in and replied to it, and now let's see what it says back to us. So I've asked it to create us a product requirements document for this particular product that I have outlined. And it's going through, for some reason, it's giving me two different versions of it. It did one of them really super fast, and one of them's a little bit slower. But I would pick and choose, right? So I would go hey, maybe the one on the right looks better, or the one on the left looks better. Let's see how this one's a little bit longer, so let's do that one. And then finally, I'm gonna copy this, and I'm just gonna start a new chat. I'm a big fan of dumping your chat with AI and starting fresh, and just say, hey, can you start writing this code? And paste it in there, and now it is going to just do exactly what we talked through, and it is creating an API first. It is doing some backend work to aggregate data together in a pretty sophisticated way, and now it's building the front end of the web page, and it is creating that container. This section is about the look and feel of the way that this chart is going to look. And notice I just spoke to it in real human terms, and in turn it is spitting back a whole bunch of code that I could then start experimenting with and determine whether or not it is right to go into my product. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you. I'll just say, if you want to get in touch with me at all, my software business is terras.com, and then my AI consulting business is hyepartners.com. Or please find me. I'm Adam Newwaterson on LinkedIn. All right, I'll pass it back. Thanks, Victor.
Adam. Fantabulous. I love it that we can find value added from technology as opposed to looking at it as our enemy, right? So we have an assistant that can help us out to be more efficient at what we do. So we, to your point, not only can scale our business, make more money, but have the time to have a holistic approach to our well-being and live our lives fully. So right now, I just, I want to open it up to our participants, our audience, to see what other questions they may have about what John and Adam share with us, and how they go about doing it 24/7. Even with the challenges of living a normal life. Although I cannot imagine how John does it, but I'm still mesmerized. You're my hero. You know,
Yeah, two toddlers are killing me slowly, so I don't know if I am doing it, but
I can probably see it. So, it's anyone in the audience that may have any questions?
Hey, thank you so much for being here, guys. So sorry, I've been eating lunch off camera.
Hey, go right ahead. Bon
That's my
appetit.
break. So thank you for both your presentations. I think where my struggle is getting the first conversation. You've shared some tools, you've shared some great quotes of, for me, once you get into the conversation is kind of how I'm interpreting into it. And so, how do we get into the conversation? How do we find those decision makers? I mean, how do we find out what those budgets are, John? So we can do that.
I was like very much not corporate background. And as I got into it, I realized it's just when people know each other, which like I hate the word networking, but I mean, I joined StartOut and I met so many people through StartOut. I'm not a venture capitalist. I'm not tech. I'm not finance, but I'm a mentor. And there's so many smart people around that I feel like I've learned a lot, and that I've met them. And like, I'll be in touch with Adam now that we presented together. This was really fun to do today, and it's a way that it got me to be involved in something outside of my work, my kids, like my life. Like I think I used to be shy, and I ripped myself out of that because I wasn't having as much fun as everyone else, and I had to push through being awkward socially because I just was like, this isn't serving me, and I had to pay attention to people who aren't awkward or socially a little more shy. And I find like finding a buddy who's more, again, when I said stick with the winners, like finding someone who's like your wingman or maybe more outgoing than you or has a good network. Like I don't need to be the expert on everything, but I like to know someone who is, or I can find that person. And you can be that person for people. And if you have them think of you as that, like, oh, Steve knows someone. Steve always knows someone. Like that doesn't mean you're the expert on everything. Just you're the person they think of, and you get to know them like that because you went to like a party, not just like getting drinks in a bar where no one talks, but like I got my first job volunteering, helping write essays for high school kids in some law firm, and someone I barely knew from high school. It was years past. Like she had someone at her company that had an open role. So like that's just what has helped me. I've never had success with like cold pitching myself on LinkedIn. Recruiters have never worked for me. It's more like when I'm just in person or I'm engaging with people, which is harder with Zoom or when you live far away from other things. But I try to do it that way if that's of any help. And then you just get them talking about themselves, and you like check in. So I don't know if that's an okay answer, but you will always know someone who knows someone you want to talk to. And when I've had some people under me, younger, or like mentees or whatever, and I always say, like, look through my LinkedIn and say, who do you want to talk to? Like, find someone you want to talk to. And some of them do, some of them don't. But one of them who did, she just had me introduce her to someone who has her dream job, and now they're connected. And like someone else is got a job because they did that. And that's because they did that. And they asked me if I could introduce them. And then they got coffee. And like one of the people was my client. So like I had a relationship with my client where she was okay meeting someone I worked with 15 years ago. That's just what I think, that just stuff builds. It's not immediate. To me, that stuff builds up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll totally echo for like what John said as far as like networking for jobs too. Like I've never gotten a job through like cold applying for anything, but I've gotten things because I continually every day build for my network and am always looking to increase connections. One thing that John didn't say that I think applies to this conversation is like go and be with your customers in the places that they already are in authentic ways, right? And so depending on who you are selling to, there are places that they congregate, whether that's physically in person or digitally online, and go and authentically participate with them in the things that they care about, right? So not in selling your service, but in the things that they are concerned with. And if you create goodwill, and this is like against that like hard pitching idea from before, right? As long as you're creating goodwill with them, when the timing is right and you solve a need for them, they will look to you for a solution. So it's been interesting, like selling into like a developer persona for me, which is very different than anything that I had done before. It was just like completely outside of my network, right? And so I
Oh, you just put yourself on mute.
No, I didn't. Somebody accidentally muted us, but it's all good. Yeah, so sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. But I had to go where they were and not where I was, right? So like I'd never been on Reddit before, but like all my customers were on Reddit. So I had to like go figure out how to use that as a service, as a way to connect with people I didn't know, right? So just think about where your customers are and be authentic, and they will find you back.
Excellent.
Like one quick thing jumping out that's so smart. Like if you go to a conference, let's say you're like in tech or you're in farm or whatever, you go to a conference that a lot of your people will be at, you just ask a question. If you ask a question to the person presenting that you actually not a fake question or like showing that you know what the answer is. People hate that. Just ask a real question or like connect with them after, because someone who's really interested will be like, that was a great question. And then you'll talk to them and that's an entry point. Or if you talk to the presenter afterwards, if there's a cocktail hour or something, the other person who's interested in what they said will talk to them too. So if you have a real question, if you do want to talk to the presenter, that's when I feel that stuff works. It's like the cold, oh, here's the list of everyone that went to the conference. Like that stuff doesn't always work, but working the room that way, it's an anchor point for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, comments, curiosities as we come to a closing of our event today? It made me think that perhaps we have been so domesticated in doing it one way or the other one. And John did the perfect example today in saying, I'm breaking my own rules. Because the reality, we sometimes think that we ought to do things one way or the other way. And here comes Adam and educate us on a way that a lot of us are still struggling with. So the reality is we can always maximize on the technologies, but we can never, ever, ever overcome that human factor. And so as long as we come in kindness and goodwill and authenticity and genuity, let love, follow us until the end of our lives. So with that, I wanted us to be reminded of where we are in our journey, right? We are creating an awareness on our holistic approach to your business well-being. We've already done. We started with well-being, moved into finance, matched legal. We just finished marketing, and coming up as a strategy, right? Why are we doing all this if it's not so we can create greater productivity, greater performance, and greater profitability? So to Adam's points, we can live life fully, right? Now, here's the deal. 8 to the 5th power is the gift that I have for you. We can create greater awareness, but awareness without action doesn't take us anywhere. So I need all of us to awaken to the importance of utilizing marketing to our own benefit, and have an attitude change to perhaps I should be using AI more often so I can have AI do this, so I can spend quality time with my kids. So we know that John is not cutting his head off because he's got, two toddlers following him around. And what are some of the actions that we need to take? And guess what? you don't have to do it alone. Here's
Mm.
this awesome community that we belong to, where we have two experts that we can call on and say, listen, I don't need to know, but you do. Can we figure out a way to collaborate and to come into an agreement as to how you can help my business while I help your business? And then hold each other accountable as an accountability partner. So I encourage you to think about my gift, 8 to the 5th power, as to how you can create this greater awareness that we just give you on marketing, and create some actionable steps that are going to make your life easier. Coming up next, we got Ron Zake. I'm excited about it because he's going to talk strategy. So he's going to help us think in ways that we otherwise wouldn't have thought about. That's what he does. He's all passionate about. Talking to him, I felt like I was talking to Star Trek commander. So it would be awesome. I invite you to join us. When is this happening? Tuesday, August 13, same time, same channel. And until then, I look forward to seeing you. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Back to you, Daniel.
Bye.
Fantastic. Victor, thank you so much. John and Adam, thank you again so much for being with us today, and for everybody who was able to attend. We look forward to seeing you at our next StartOut event. Have a great day, y'all.
Bye, everybody.